Hi, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to look at a couple different versions of Kinda Blue that are in print and pretty easy to get and not too pricey. Well, one of them is kind of pricey. But before that, a shout out to Jeffrey Francis for correctly identifying the album in the background last time was the piano scene of Ahmad Jamal. Different people say it different ways. I saw an interview with Wayne Shorter where he says Ahmad Jamal. That seems pretty definitive for me. So there's actually a tie-in, a neat little Easter egg here. If you're not familiar with this album, check out Pavan, which is a cover of a Morton Gould tune that was composed for orchestra. And it definitely has some So What-esque elements. And definitely problematizes some of the myths of Kind of Blue, that all these songs were completely conceived of in the studio on that day, and the band had never played any of that stuff before, and there's no precedent for it. Listen to Bhavan. If you want to play, the viewership of this channel is small, but definitely well informed when it comes to these album covers. So I've got a more challenging one in the background here, and we'll see if anybody wants to try to identify that one. So before I get in here, the last thing, who needs another video about Kind of Blue? If you're in that camp and you don't want to watch a video about Kind of Blue, I totally don't blame you. I'm a nut for the album. Got a lot of different pressings. This is more for maybe somebody who doesn't have a copy yet. Maybe you just got into vinyl, got your first turntable over this holiday season, and you want to pick up a copy of the album. I don't know. But if you are not in the mood to see another Kind of Blue video, I get it. The next video I make will definitely be for you. It's not going to be about a reissue. It'll be about new music, and I hope that will be something that you'll enjoy. If you're going to watch the video, I hope you'll watch the next one too and enjoy that. But the topic for today is Kinds of Blue, because the UHQR, the ultra high quality record from Analog Productions on Clarity vinyl, 200-gram Clarity vinyl, is sold out. The limited run of 25,000 is gone. And it seems like you can still get some copies from stores that are just now getting their allocation, especially in Europe. But in the United States, I think most of the people who had stock are out of it. So of course you can get it on the secondary market, but what are the options that are in print for you if you don't want to go that route? There's 3 good ones depending on your price point and some of your preferences. And I'm gonna jump right into those. The first is the Sony Legacy pressing. It's in stereo. And this is pretty commonly available on anywhere that sells records, really. But it's on Amazon. You can get it there. The price fluctuates pretty wildly. So I would say that this should be the go-to copy for anybody who's not an analog purist. It did come from a digital source. More about that in just a second here. But the benefit of this is that, one, it sounds good, and two, that it sometimes it goes on super sale on Amazon for like 12 or 13 bucks, or Target or Walmart, any of these online retailers. So if you don't have any ethical qualms about getting it from that source, this one can be had kind of the dirt cheapest, and it sounds good. It's got a quasi faithful replica of the original Columbia Stereo logo with this is kind of hard to see, but there's a little L here, the new Sony Legacy logo. And really no complaints about this record in terms of sound quality. Now, if you like the idea of having an all analog pressing, you've got maybe one other option, maybe 2 other options. Another one that is highly regarded and also still available, although it's sold out in some places. I know it's available at the Acoustic Sounds website, is a 2013 remaster by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound. And this is, if you are a sharp-eyed knower of Columbia labels, this is the mono label. So this is the mono version, the new mono mix. There's a whole lot of hoopla about the master tapes, the mono master tapes. If you saw my Kind of Blue UHQR video, I got into it a little bit there, but just I'll say, whether or not there were any mono tapes in the first place, they're gone now, and they weren't used to make the mono records, even the OG 1959 Columbia 6i mono records. We're using that off-speed stereo tape. So this seems to be, although some of the verbiage is a little bit wiggly, it seems that what happened is the master tape is purported to be in bad condition. Again, there's a lot of lore surrounding this record. I don't know why you would advertise that the master tape is in bad condition when you're going to put out a re-release of this, because that makes it seem like maybe the re-release is going to not sound good. But they say that the master tape is in bad shape, and they is Mark Wilder in this case, who has been supervising a lot of these transfers from the master tape. So they did, one last hurrah transfer of the original 3-track master to digitize it at the highest quality digital form that was available at the time. And that was probably then used to make the legacy version I just showed you. At the same time they were making the last hurrah digital transfer, they went ahead and recorded it to tape as well. So they did a stereo mix to stereo tape, and then did what's so-called fold down of the 3-track master into a mono mix, and that tape was then used to make this thing. Okay, this was for a record store release. It was a limited edition record store day release. Again, mastered by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound. And after the limited edition run was over, they just made a non-numbered, non-limited edition. So it's a little bit confusing because people sometimes refer to this as the record store day mono version. But this one is unnumbered and it's still available. So the record store day one commands a premium on Discogs, and it's the same as this. It just doesn't have a number on the back. So the only questionable thing about this, because it sounds great, is whether or not it was really done all analog. The hype sticker that came on it doesn't say so. And so there are some skeptics out there that say, well, unless it says this was made all analog from, the original master tape, then they just assume that there's a digital part in the chain. Again, that doesn't bother me. If it bothers you, it's a little bit of a toss-up here. But, why wouldn't they have just used the analog tape if they had made it when they did the last digital transfer? So probably all analog. Certainly, Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound is a great masterer of vinyl, and this record sounds great. It's mixed pretty hot comparatively. By that I mean that it's at a higher volume, and so it sounds great. And because generally, when people A/B records, they tend to prefer the louder one. I mean, unless it's so loud that it distorts and breaks up, but there's nothing like that on here. The whole thing sounds pretty good. The only issue that, in addition to the possible digital nature of it, is that it's a mono. So maybe you don't know what that is, or you don't like the idea of it. Mono just means that there's not separate left and right channels of music, and the sound coming out of each speaker is the same. So in the stereo version, you got John Coltrane in one speaker, and you've got Cannibal Adderley in a different speaker. And here, everything's just kind of coming down the middle at you. For my money, I don't think, as much as I love this album, I don't think it is like a audiophile sonic masterpiece in a lot of ways, because the way that Fred Plout engineered this for Columbia Records is he took the center channel and ran it through a reverb chamber. So you're already not capturing like the sound in the room necessarily. It's the sound in the room plus one of the 3 tracks. The center channel is run through an echo chamber, and so for me, it's always made for a record that I really enjoy listening to. But if I want to feel like, oh, I'm in the room with the musicians, this is not one I go to. So I don't know that you lose a whole lot going from the stereo to the mono. And some people prefer mono anyways. This is available for like $29 right now at Acoustic Sounds, and I think this is the one to get personally, unless you find the Legacy one on super sale. So if you can get the Sony Legacy Stereo mix for $12 or something like that, and you don't feel like you need a more ultimate version, then get that. But the retail price for the Sony Legacy version is like $1 or $2 less than this mono version. And I think the mono version sounds better and has a better provenance, and was mastered by somebody who is famous for doing a good job at mastering jazz records. Your last option is the Mobile Fidelity Sound Labs 45 RPM box set. This was kind of the famous audiophile version before the UHQR version came out. This is a pretty specific one. This is not for everybody. I think it sounds great. It has a bad reputation as having, this like bloated bass, and it's mixed like a rock and roll record, and maybe you might like that. I don't think the bass sounds bloated or flabby at all. It sounds pretty natural. So once upon a time, I played in an acoustic jazz band, and I spent a lot of time sitting with my head right in between the drummer and the bassist. And I have to say that Mark Wilder and who did the mix of this, and I think Kurt Wunderlich is his name, did the actual mastering. I think they did a great job. It sounds like an acoustic bass. It sounds like an upright bass sounds, in my experience, having heard one played right here for many years. Some things I don't like about it, it's got this like matte booklet instead of a proper album cover. Mobile Fidelity did do a lot of the Miles Davis catalog, and they put them in jackets, and this one was a box set, kind of for no reason, other than to be deluxe, I suppose. So they're 45 RPM. They come in the sleeve. Again, Mobile Fidelity, MoFi does their own thing. They put their own label on. I think these are kind of ugly, but the record itself, it sounds good. But you got to get up and flip it, every 7 or 8 minutes or so. Those gripes aside, I do think this one sounds better than the other two. It's cut at a lower volume, so actually at the same volume, the mono one sounds the best. But if I just go turn it up, one click on my stereo, I prefer this one. And I don't necessarily like the UHQR better than the MoFi version. There are aspects of the UHQR I like a lot better, specifically the sound of the piano. But this is a real fun listen, the MoFi cut. One other thing that you may have heard about if you're a real record nerd is that MoFi is redoing a bunch of the Miles Davis catalog on SuperVinyl, which is their fancy pants transparent vinyl that's supposed to have a lower noise floor. And that just means that the sound of the needle on the vinyl itself, when there's not supposed to be any noise, like in a silent passage, it always makes some amount of noise, whether we can hear it or not. And so that noise floor is even lower on the special vinyl. So I actually have the MoFi Kind of Blue 45 RPM box set pressed on SuperVinyl. They did like an unannounced test run of maybe 1,000 of them, and they just sold them like normal records, and it was a little Easter egg for some folks that got those. So I have one of those, and I A/B'd it with the regular black vinyl version. I would say it's not worth waiting for, on the off chance that MoFi decides to repress this box set on SuperVinyl. It's maybe a little bit quieter. Honestly, I mean, I didn't really hear any difference. There were just a couple spots on the regular black vinyl version where I could hear like just a little bit of a, but that was really it. And it never really took me out of the music. So that hasn't even been announced that they're going to do Kind of Blue on this. I would say if you're looking for a copy and you want kind of an audiophile all stops pulled out version of it. That's all analog. You might check out the MoFi one. It's the most expensive. It used to be $60. Now the list price is $70. It's awaiting repress. One nice thing though is that the UHQR being on the market has kind of tanked the price of these things. So you can still find the MoFi version. There's a lot of them on the secondary market, and people were trying to sell them for over $100, even though they only cost $60 in between the represses. But now that the UHQR is out, you can still find the MoFi version near the original list price, $60. So that's twice as expensive as the Ryan K. Smith Sterling Sound new mono version, but maybe you want to treat yourself. So that's the current landscape. Those are the three recommendations I would have for you. There is another in-print-ish one, a recent mono and stereo release from Japan. They're very expensive in the United States. I don't know if they were expensive in Japan. They go for around $70 or $80 on the secondary market. I don't think any US stores are carrying it. It's another Mark Wilder mix. And so I don't know that it's going to be any different than what you would get from the mono version or the MoFi version that we're talking about here. And the hype sticker doesn't really advertise any new bells or whistles. It's just a new pressing of it that was put out in Japan recently. So that's the state of Kind of Blue right now. And $30 will get you a really, really, really good sounding version. If I'm being honest with myself, especially because it's cut at a higher volume, this mono version probably sounds better than my go-to version, which is the first pressing Canadian mono of Kind of Blue. And so $30 to get you a great sounding record. It's in stock at Acoustic Sounds. I don't know. I don't think this is being pressed anymore. So when these are gone, they're gone. So as Chad Kassem of Acoustic Sounds likes to say, buy now or cry later. The Sony Legacy one will probably be around forever, and the MoFi is coming back through Mobile Fidelity and through Music Direct, but it's all over the place at list price right now, so you can probably find it pretty simply. Okay, that's it. Again, any guessers? This is more challenging. It's not a classic album I will give you yet. That's my hint to you. Thanks for watching, and next video we're going to do a hard pivot from retreading the most well-worn Kind of Blue territory and talk about some new music. Thanks.